regardless of your political persuasion.
Absolutely.
That's what we're beholden to here, and that's where your money certainly goes to be spent toward factual reporting here on your radio dial and on our social web streams and in our digital streams. Here's how to do your part again. 866-247-9576, WLRN.org. You get in before 7 o'clock tonight. You get your name in for the drawing for the Galapagos trip. A lot of thank you gifts still already online as well.
Sure.
It is, the cupboard is still full in terms of the thank you gifts for you. You can take your pick of a lot of the things there online based upon your gift level. What it matters to us, though, is not so much the thank you gift that you're interested in. That is important that you feel gratitude, and there is a lot of gratitude. What matters to us is if you feel a value service for WLRN in the afternoons as you're coming home from work, sitting in traffic, picking up kids from school, going to a soccer practice and piano lessons or dance lessons, whatever it may be, you find value, companionship, information, entertainment from WLRN. Put a price on it right now. Now's the time to do it. 866-247-9576, WLRN.org.
And remember, if we could just get to that magic number, that 54,000, raise that additional 54,000 by 7 p.m. tonight, we would wrap up the drawing, we would pick the name, and we'd be pledge free tomorrow. Help us out, 866-247-9576.
Support for NPR comes from NPR member stations and from CFP, Certified Financial Planner Professionals, committed to providing financial planning in the client's best interest, from taxes and investments to saving for college and planning for retirement. More at letsmakeaplan.org. From Emma, featuring Emma Plus, an email platform with branching logic, an open API, and custom integrations to power targeted campaigns. Emma, on a mission to help marketers do their very best work. Learn more at myemma.com. And from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
From NPR News, this is All Things Considered. I'm Robert Siegel in Washington.
And I'm Kelly McEvers in Culver City, California. After about 6 weeks of testimony, the case against 7 defendants who occupied an Oregon wildlife refuge earlier this year has gone to the jury. The occupation in the rural eastern part of the state restarted a debate about the role of the federal government in managing public lands. Oregon Public Broadcasting's Conrad Wilson has been in that federal courtroom since September, and he's with us now from Portland. Hi.
Hi.
So just remind us again, what crimes have these defendants been charged with?
So the defendants have been charged with conspiracy to prevent federal employees from doing their jobs at the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge. The government says the defendants accomplished that through the use of force, threats, and intimidation. Some of the defendants are also facing a weapons charge, carrying a firearm in a federal facility, and a few of the defendants have been charged with theft of government property.
And as we said, the jury now has the case after 2 days of closing arguments, I understand, and weeks of testimony. But let's start with the government's case. I mean, what was the federal prosecutor's closing argument?
The government told the jury that the case is not about the defendant's belief that it's illegal for the federal government to own large tracts of rangeland. Federal prosecutors say the defendants simply just took property that wasn't theirs to take. And in doing that, they disrupted the work that was going on at the refuge. And they accomplished their goals by carrying firearms and blocking roads in and out of the refuge. The biggest charge, and that's this conspiracy charge we talked about, is the crime of agreeing to work together to do something unlawful. And prosecutors argued if the jury finds a conspiracy existed, then all the defendants are guilty of it.
So how did the defense respond in their closing arguments?
So there were 7 different defendants, so the jury heard 7 separate closing arguments from them. Some of the defendants are representing themselves in trial. Other defense attorneys questioned the use of confidential informants. The FBI had a number of them at the refuge. The defense has raised the possibility that it was some of the informants who committed some of the illegal acts at the refuge rather than the defendants on trial. They also brought up a fringe legal theory called adverse possession, saying that by taking over land and using it, improving it, it can become yours in time.
And you covered this occupation when it was playing out at the refuge, and you saw a lot of the things happen that these people are being accused of. I mean, what's it been like to see them questioned about this stuff?
Well, I mean, there were guns. I saw guns, and I mean, there were roads, in fact, were blocked. I saw the pickup truck that occupiers used to block them. I mean, and those are just sort of facts. A lot of testimony the jury has heard and seen are the arguments the occupiers made to me when I interviewed them on the refuge in January. So I guess, now the jury is really having to decide what weight to give that evidence.
Okay, so the jury has the case now. Any sense when we might get a verdict?
It's very hard to say. There's a lot of evidence for the jury to consider. Deliberations could last hours, days, weeks. It's really hard to predict.
Oregon Public Broadcasting's Conrad Wilson, thank you.
You're welcome, Kelly.
Every few weeks, there's a new case of a black man killed by police officers, the whole thing caught on video. There's been a national conversation over how and when police use deadly force. Well, in New York State, similar questions are being raised about how corrections officers work behind bars. Critics say prison guards too often resort to violence with little accountability. North Country Public Radio's Brian Mann reports.
The last couple of years, Americans have grown used to seeing video of deadly confrontations between black men and police. But here's something we almost never see.
Stay on the wall. Stay on the wall. Stay on the wall. Do you understand me? Don't move.
It's video of a closed world, invisible to most of us. A half dozen white corrections officers at Clinton Dannemora Prison in upstate New York are confronting an African-American inmate named Leonard Strickland. He appears dazed, responsive, and then he collapses. The video was filmed by a guard in 2010 and first made public by the New York Times. Strickland died after being struck on the head. State investigators issued a scathing report about the incident, but no officers were disciplined or charged.
Excessive use of force in prisons, we believe, has reached crisis proportions in New York State.
That's U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara. Last month, he charged 5 former corrections officers who worked in a different state prison in Fishkill, New York, with federal civil rights violations. In a press conference, Bharara and FBI officials who conducted part of the investigation said guards beat an African-American inmate named Kevin Moore so savagely he suffered 5 broken ribs, skull fractures, and a collapsed lung. The FBI's Bill Sweeney said guards tore out hunks of Moore's dreadlocked hair.
One of the officers allegedly boasted of the group's illicit conduct by referring to the dreadlocks ripped from Moore's scalp as souvenirs.
Investigators allege officers then arranged an elaborate cover-up. This kind of prison guard violence has also drawn new scrutiny from New York's legislature. Democrat Daniel O'Donnell opened an assembly hearing last winter by describing another case where corrections officers are accused of brutalizing a prisoner.
An inmate died, and after the inmate died, the official explanation was fabricated, and what we now know is that the inmate was in fact murdered by employees of the state of New York.
He's talking about Samuel Harrell, an African-American inmate who died last year after an altercation with officers at Fishkill Correctional. No charges have been filed in that case, but the U.S. Attorney's Office confirms that it's investigating. Corrections officers and their political allies have pushed back against the way this debate is being framed. State Assemblywoman Janet Dupree is a Republican whose district includes a half dozen state prisons, including Clinton Dannemora.
The vast majority of these men and women do their jobs incredibly well under very difficult circumstances. And I hope that as we go forward, we don't ever lose sight of that.
Mike Powers heads the powerful corrections officer union in New York. He says the real issue that lawmakers should focus on is an increasingly violent inmate population. He says too many prisons are understaffed and overcrowded.
Your life's on the line, and you're doing everything you can to defend yourself. Before you know it, we're the ones being scrutinized by the advocates as being horrific corrections officers.
But reform advocates and some legal experts say this kind of scrutiny is long overdue. They say violence by guards is a problem in prisons across the country, not just in New York. Michael Mushlin testified at the Assembly hearing last winter. He teaches at Pace Law School and co-chairs a panel of the American Bar Association that pushes for more prison transparency and accountability.
These prisons can be dark places. We have electors, as we do basically throughout this country, inevitably occurring consequences.
Muslim says the problem is complicated by race. Many prison guards in the U.S. are white and come from rural communities, while inmate populations tend to be disproportionately African-American and urban. In the face of these latest accusations and federal indictments, New York has already strengthened the internal affairs unit that investigates state prisons. Critics want the state legislature to go farther, creating an independent oversight agency to review cases where inmates are injured or killed by officers. For NPR News, I'm Brian Mann in upstate New York.
Why is this fucking road closed? Jesus Christ.
Editorial independence, journalism that strives to connect to our heads without losing sight of our hearts, reporters who put events in context. These are the hallmarks of WLRN's approach to news and public affairs. Some of our listeners find these qualities important enough to support WLRN with contributions. So hopefully you're among those who understand that all of that you listen to every day, not just the national NPR news, but our great work from our local Miami our WLRN news team, headed by our friend who's with me today, Tom Hudson. It's so worth your support. It's what makes all of this happen, really, is contributions from listeners who become members. So it's pretty much as simple as that. If this is something you believe in, if this is something that you want to keep very strong and healthy for all of us in South Florida, become a member today. 86
fertility. Yoon unsettles the way we imagine our possessions, interiors, or borders at all. What is the work of desire? What slips away even as we try to name it? Glancing off mythic landscapes, slipping by Homer and Milton, Yoon's poems also thread through, as she puts it, radiant squares of sensation, the body a dichotomy of flesh and blood. At what point does this lacework shift over from intricacy to impossibility, she asks. Yoon's poems, luminous fictions, also capture the sheer force of imagining itself, the slippery, elusive loops of desire. Yoon writes, "It is almost unseemly, this exulting, the maypole the seed has made of its body."
That's Tess Taylor, reviewing Black Ink. It's the newest collection of poems by Monica Yoon. Tess's most recent book is Work and Days.
Just another example of the great reports and conversations and the wonderful things that you hear each and every day right here on All Things Considered on 91.3 WLRN. Caroline Brader-Watts along with Tom Hudson and Andy Wagner. Rounding out this pledge drive, we have probably, we're going to check because we have a lot of phone calls, a lot of things happening right now. We were just at 50,000 left to go, Tom. I'm sure we're under that now. Things are happening very quickly. There's a lot. Believe me, if you want to make that call to 866-247-9576, we got plenty of people who can answer the phone, so don't be deterred. Though even better and maybe easier for you, go to WLRN.org. You can do all those things and get your thank you gift and get entered into the drawing when you go there. And it might be a little bit quicker, but either way, you'll be taken care of.
Yeah, and a couple of things, right? $375. That's a number to think about here. If you spend an hour with All Things Considered at any one time, 15 minutes on a Thursday, 20 minutes here, and 12 minutes there, if that adds up to an hour, that ultimately costs about $375. That's how much each hour of All Things Considered costs WLRN to put it on there, to purchase that programming from NPR. So if you'd like to go home tonight and say at the dinner table, you know what I did today? I bought an hour of All Things Considered. What'd you do with your day? I bought an hour of All Things Considered. That's what I did. And that hour, you can tap into that hour multiple times over the next 12 months with pride. Here's how to do it. Here's how to purchase your hour of All Things Considered. 866-247-9576. You know, sometimes these big numbers that we have, $1 million a year that we spend just with NPR, roughly. It's a huge number, and frankly, it's hard to fathom that number. $375 is the hour that you spend with ATC, All Things Considered. Here's how to feel a piece of that ownership. WLRN.org. Look for the red donate button or the Galapagos banner right on top.
There you go.
That'll lead you there as well, and that is the big giveaway. 7 o'clock tonight to get qualified in order to get your name in the hat for that.
Yeah, a little bit over 2 hours left to get into that drawing. You don't want to miss out on that. You know, so many people want to know how their contribution will be spent. It's a fair question, and it shows you're a good steward of your money. Your dollars help pay for the technology to operate the station. Your dollars help pay for programs. Your dollars help pay for local reporting. If you want to know how your money is being spent, turn on the radio. We have it on right now, but if there's someone near you who goes, I don't believe that, because, I don't know where this money goes, turn it on. Just turn on WLRN at any given time, 24 hours, any time in the 24-hour period of your day, and you're going to hear how your money is being spent. And it's being spent wisely, it's being spent well, and that's why we ask you to make that contribution right now. Let me do just a quick update here, Tom. We were at 49 left to go.
That's
and
49,000. Keeping score,
which
yes.
was $49.
Yeah. And this is
very slow
until the
today.
end of the pledge drive.
Right.
If we can do this by 7 o'clock tonight, that means pledge-free morning edition on a Friday.
Right.
There's very few things that can improve a Friday other than the fact that it's just a Friday. But a pledge-free morning edition, pledge-free Friday, it's done with. It's done with today at 7 o'clock. If we can raise how much money?
Now, we're closing in on 48,000
There we
right
go.
now.
All right.
Yep.
So talking about, the spending of the money, where those dollars go, let me tell you a couple of things that's coming up for WLRN.
Yes, you were telling us.
The president is in town. There's this thing happening that begins on Monday and stretches for 2 weeks into the first Tuesday after the first Monday of November. Early voting begins in South Florida on Monday, October 24th. That's this coming Monday. The president is in town. Secretary Clinton has traveled to the area, will likely come back. Donald Trump has traveled to the area, will likely come back. Surrogates have been here. We have the staff, thanks to the generosity from this community, to go to those events and not only report on what's being said, but put it into a local context. What does it mean for the local voter? These big national issues are important, no doubt about it. But how they affect local communities is what's important as well, and that's what we try to do. So that's happening. We've also got a brand new series of poll dating coming out tomorrow morning that we're going to release, looking at the Miami-Dade County mayoral race, looking at who Miami voters think is most responsible for addressing the Zika problem. We're looking also at what are the most important local issues in Miami-Dade County. Some of the results may surprise you. 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, we're going to release those results. And then our colleague, Rowan Morgarity, just back from Haiti, we're going to do an entire hour on Haiti Monday morning at 9 a.m.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
that connection
awesome.
to South Florida. Those are the kind of investments that we're able to do because of the generosity that we received from throughout South Florida. Here's how to get involved here in the afternoon. 866-247-9576. You want to get into that Galapagos 7-night cruise for 2 Galapagos Islands, courtesy of Eco Ventura Hotel, international airfare, all there. Here is, look for that red donate button online. Turn red to green at WLRN.org. And thanks for your support.
Support for NPR comes from NPR member stations and from CFP, Certified Financial Planner Professionals, committed to providing financial planning in the client's best interest, from taxes and investments to saving for college and planning for retirement. More at letsmakeaplan.org. From Red Hat, offering a portfolio of enterprise-ready open-source solutions that run up, down, and throughout the stacks of companies in the Fortune 500. Learn more at redhat.com. Red Hat. Try, tested, trusted. From Epson, offering cartridge-free printing with EcoTank, their refillable ink tank printer. EcoTank comes with up to 2 years of ink for printing up to 8,000 pages. Learn more at epson.com/ecotank. And from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation at gatesfoundation.org.
This is considered online HD1 Miami, Fort Lauderdale, 91.5 WKWL, HD1 West 19.7 WFLB, HD2 West Palm Beach, 9 and beyond Fort Lauderdale Beaches.
Today and tomorrow, the team of cancer specialists and researchers at Sylvester Comprehensive Cancer Center work to discover, develop, and deliver the most precise treatments for your specific breast cancer to lead to better outcomes and more hope. Learn more at sylvester.org. The Volin Center invites you to take a tour, receive a gift, and learn more about their Life Enrichment program for the active senior, Life Enrichment Plus for those with early onset cognitive issues, low or no-cost door-to-door transportation, their senior daycare program providing physical, social, and cognitive care, serving Boca, Delray, and Boynton Beach. No-cost caregiver support groups, individual counseling, nutritious meals, and children's daycare are available. More at volincenter.com.
The time is 5 o'clock.
whoever's behind says, hey, you can't pay attention to the polls. But right now, if election were tomorrow, he'd lose.
What voters in the battleground state of North Carolina thought about last night's debate.
It's Thursday, October 20th, and this is All Things Considered from NPR News.
I'm Kelly McEvers.
And I'm Robert Siegel. Coming up, some of those voters think the election will be rigged, as Donald Trump has claimed. Is that possible?
When people say there's vote rigging, it's really saying that there's illegal activity which is organized to distort the outcome, and that's not the case.
And a self-proclaimed nasty gal responds to Trump's debate comment.
Plus, a new study on whether gunshot wounds should be treated on-site or in the emergency room.
For the past 30 years, this has been one of the great questions. How much advanced life support is beneficial for victims of penetrating trauma?
Those stories coming up after this news.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. Donald Trump says he will accept the results of the election next month if he wins. But at a rally in Ohio today, Trump said he will reserve his right to file a legal challenge in the case of, quote, questionable results.
I was asked a question about whether I would agree in advance to concede the results on election night if for some reason we should lose, which we're not going to lose.
Meanwhile, both Trump and Hillary Clinton will sit at the same table at the Alfred E. Smith Memorial Foundation dinner in New York City tonight. The Pentagon says an American service member has been killed in northern Iraq. It's the first U.S. death in the operation that began earlier this week to retake the city of Mosul from Islamic State fighters. NPR's Tom Bowman has more.
The Pentagon says a service member died from wounds sustained from an improvised explosive device known as an IED. The Pentagon statement provided few details. ISIS fighters have been using car and truck bombs to slow the advance to Mosul, and they also bury bombs in the roadways. American troops are not directly involved in combat, Pentagon officials say, but they point out the Americans are still in harm's way, assisting and advising Iraqi and Kurdish troops close to the front lines. Military officials say more than 100 U.S. Special Operations Forces are with those troops, working in small groups and advising on everything from artillery support and airstrikes to intelligence and logistics. Tom Bowman, NPR News, Washington.
The Obama administration says it's baffled over statements made by the president of the Philippines that his nation would separate from the United States. As NPR's Jackie Northam reports, it's just the latest in a string of anti-American remarks made by the Philippine president.
During a visit to Beijing, President Rodrigo Duterte announced the Philippines would separate from the U.S. and align itself more closely with China. He said that meant severing decades of military and economic ties. State Department spokesman John Kirby says Duterte's statements are inexplicably at odds with the very close relationship the U.S. has with the Philippines.
We are going to be seeking an explanation of exactly what the president meant when he talked about separation from the U.S. It's not clear to us exactly what that means.
Kirby says Duterte has used similar bombastic rhetoric in the past, only to later walk back from his position. Jackie Northam, NPR News, Washington.
More Americans are applying for unemployment benefits. The Labor Department says initial claims rose 13,000 last week to a seasonally adjusted 260,000. It's the highest level in 5 weeks. Wall Street was lower by the closing bell. The Dow down 40 points to end at 18,162. The Nasdaq fell 4 points to end at 5241, and the S&P 500 down 2 points, ending at 2141. This is NPR News from Washington.
From the WLRN studios at the Miami Herald, I'm Charles Perez. The latest portion of the Sunshine State Survey is out and focuses on education, transportation, and health. A key finding was that more than half of Floridians surveyed support trained staff being allowed to carry guns at public schools. WUSF went to downtown Tampa during the lunch hour to talk to people.
I feel if they're trained, then they should be able to carry it, because we have untrained people carrying weapons and bringing them into school, shooting people.
I think somebody should be there, because you can't have a cop everywhere all the time.
The less firearms out there, the better. Teachers aren't infallible, and they have tempers, and some of them are dealing with very difficult children, and I think it's just a recipe for disaster.
The survey is conducted by University of South Florida pollsters and the Nielsen research firm. The next set of survey results is scheduled to be released on Tuesday, October 25th. That portion will focus on trust in government, state leadership, and livability in Florida. This is WLRN Miami Herald News. I'm Charles Perez.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include ADT Security, helping to protect families and homes for over 140 years. Learn more at ADT.com. And the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation at macfound.org.
Tom, Emerson described success as to laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people, and to leave the world a better place. Pretty nice, huh?
That sounds pretty good. Yeah.
Sounds awful good to me.
Sign me up.
We hope that the programs on WLRN bring humor to your life, provide intellectual stimulation, and ultimately make the world a better place for everyone in our community. If we've been successful for you, consider making a financial donation right now. Caroline Brader-Watts, along with Tom Hudson and Andy Wagner, hoping you will help ring out the fall pledge campaign successfully. Boy, are we doing great today. $46,000 left to go. Can we raise that in 2 hours? Can we be pledge free as of 7 o'clock? It sounds like a soap opera.
Can we? That's right. $23,000 an hour. That's what we need to do. $23,000 an hour for the next 2 hours.
Right.
Pledge free on Friday.
Oh, that would be awesome.
That is the proposition here, and here's how to get us there. 866-247-9576, WLRN.org.
And you will also be
Siegel in Washington. Donald Trump has doubled down on the stunning suggestion he made at last night's debate that he might not accept the outcome of the election. Speaking today in Ohio, he said he would honor the result with one caveat.
I will totally accept the results of this great and historic presidential election if I win.
If he wins. The Republican candidate says he reserves the right to contest the election if it doesn't go his way.
Trump's repeated claims of vote rigging over the last several weeks have played well with his base. For some, though, this latest declaration goes too far. Our co-host, Ari Shapiro, watched last night's debate with a group of Trump supporters in rural North Carolina.
The town of Robbinsville sits in a dimple of the Great Smoky Mountains. A road known as the Tail of the Dragon winds away from here, whipping and switching through spectacular vistas up to the Tennessee border. This is a dry county, so there aren't any bars or nightclubs that people go to after dark. At our debate watching party, people brought plenty of non-alcoholic provisions.
I'm going to try some of that. I'm not even hungry. I'm going to try.
This part of the county loves to defy the establishment. The local congressman, Mark Meadows, filed the motion to oust House Speaker John Boehner. So Donald Trump's bull in a china shop trait is part of what people here like about the candidate. The fact that he's alienated so many people is a plus. Steve Odom owns a trucking company.
I like Trump's new slogan, "Drain the Swamp," because I am anti-establishment. I don't agree with these guys and the positions they've taken.
He's talking about Republican leaders. In North Carolina, early voting started today. Polls in the state are almost tied, and Trump lags by about 7 points nationally. So in this room, some people were nervous heading into the debate. Lowell Crisp is a retired school principal.
Whoever's behind says, hey, you can't pay attention to the polls. But right now, if the election were tomorrow, he'd lose.
Early on, this group applauded Trump's answers on the Supreme Court, abortion, and immigration.
But we have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out.
Deb Turquan is retired from the school district.
Well, the other debates, like on them 1 to 10, some of them were 3, one was 6. This one's 10.
More than an hour into the debate, Trump made his most controversial remark of the night, refusing to say whether he'll accept the results of the election.
I will look at it at the time. I'm not looking at anything now. I'll look at it at the time.
Voter Lowell Crisp shook his head.
We're going to accept the election, whatever that outcome is.
What do you think of Donald Trump saying, we'll wait and see, I'll leave you in suspense?
Well, I wish he hadn't said that. I think that's one mistake he made tonight.
Here in North Carolina, a court recently struck down the state's voter ID law. Many Republicans worry that could open the door to voter fraud, even though there's no evidence of widespread voter fraud in the U.S. 75-year-old Ruth Engel says for the first time in her life, she doesn't trust the integrity of an American election.
You show ID for everything but to vote. Now that's suspect.
And so if on November 9th they say that Hillary Clinton is the new president, are you going to believe it?
No, I'll never believe it if she wins.
So how does that make you feel about the American democracy if you can't trust the outcome of the election?
Let me tell you, also so sad.
It's pathetic.
Donald Trump's complaints.
Hello?
What time do you think you'll be there?
5:30?
5:30. Okay, just so I can process an estimate.
That's an estimate. I don't know how bad it really is.
But you have the map on, and the map tells you when you'll get there?
Yeah, it says 5:30.
Okay.
Ah! Ah! Yeah? Hi. Hi.
She's just waving his hand.
I can't see your hand waving.
He doesn't know. He's saying hi to you with his hand waving. I think it's on the phone, didn't you?
Joy just texted me. Text me when you get here. Did you text her or whatever?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. All right, bye.
Bye.
But amongst Trump supporters, it jumps to 2/3. I mean, that's pretty remarkable. And the thing is that the belief in fraud has really been increasing over the years, ever since Florida in 2000.
Now, how common are actual incidents of voter fraud?
They're not the problem. The Brennan Center, for example, did one of the most thorough studies, and they found voter impersonation was more or less non-existent. That's when you vote a couple of times at the polls, which is part of what Donald Trump is saying is the problem of American elections. Doesn't mean to say there aren't problems in the system, but it's really not about what happens in the polling booth or when people go to vote. That's not where the problems arise.
Donald Trump claims that the race is rigged for several reasons, including, as he says, the fact that Hillary Clinton is allowed to run, despite doing things he thinks should disqualify her. But when he or his surrogates talk about fraud at the polls, they invoke stories of what we used to call the graveyard vote. Didn't big city political machines once manipulate vote results in America? And are we confident that those days are gone?
Absolutely. So in Chicago, it was vote early, vote often. We've had a history of that, and vote buying as well. There's all sorts of problems there. But those are really a long time ago, and they're historical. They're not the actual practices of what goes on today. So when people say there's vote rigging, that's a strong charge. It's really saying that there's illegal activity which is organized to distort the outcome. And that's not the case.
There are other aspects of our electoral system that people criticize, the superdelegate system in the primary season, the gerrymandering of districts, ballot access for third-party candidates. Is it really surprising that a large share of our electorate consider the system unfair?
No, I think those are some real criticisms. And when, again, we ask experts, the real problem is money in the media. In other words, it's the amount of money which is being spent in the campaign, which people don't trust because of the way that large donors or other groups can influence the process through dark money. And then media. People often feel that the media is unfair, is imbalanced, and issues of gerrymandering or of long-standing history in America. And indeed, when we compare American elections and their integrity with other countries around the world, and we ask experts to evaluate them, in fact, America doesn't come out very well. America ranks 52nd out of 153 countries worldwide, and it's the worst of all the democracies.
If, in fact, we have an election night in which the loser refuses to say, I lost fair and square and I congratulate the winner, boy, what's the damage?
So it has long-term damage. Where people don't trust the election, they tend not to vote so much, so turnout goes down. They have less confidence in elected institutions like Congress, and as you know, it's already at one of the lowest levels. And ultimately, it also damages confidence and faith in the performance of democracy in America. Now, America is an established democracy, but in countries which are emerging and becoming democracies, if you have some allegations from sore losers that the outcome is rigged or fraudulent, you have major instability. Think of Kenya, where there were thousands of people who were killed and displaced in 2007. Cases like Bangladesh, where there's tremendous violence every election, Thailand, where there was a military coup d'etat, Nigeria, where there were ethnic violence. So you can see that in more fragile democracies, the consequences of having problems in your elections really spreads throughout the system. That's not going to be the case in America. But even minor cases of protests that don't go through the courts, or any sort of individuals who resort to any sort of violence, can create fundamental tensions that will make things worse rather than better.
Pippa Norris, thank you very much for talking with us about it.
Thank you very much, Robert.
Pippa Norris, political scientist with the Harvard Kennedy School of Government and also director of the Electoral Integrity Project.
Okay, one more story out of last night's debate. This one about the afterlife of 4 words interjected by Donald Trump.
My Social Security payroll contribution will go up, as will Donald's, assuming he can't figure out how to get out of it. But what we want to do is to replenish the Social Security Trust Fund by making
Such a nasty woman. It wasn't long before that insult was reclaimed as a rallying cry for Clinton supporters who felt like Trump was taking a dig at women.
Hashtag I'm a nasty woman made the rounds on Twitter. So did Nasty Women Vote.
One of those tweeting was Sophia Amoruso. She's something of an authority on nasty. Her clothing company is called Nasty Gal. She's written a memoir with advice for women entrepreneurs. She says she wasn't surprised Trump's insult backfired.
Little did he know that the word nasty is one that, I don't know, women have been having a lot of fun with for a long time. From the time that Betty Davis wrote the album Nasty Gal and said she was a nasty gal. Like any word, it really only belongs to the person who uses it until someone steals it back and uses it in a different way.
Amoruso says she thinks the insult resonated with women who felt marginalized because of their gender.
She says she views nasty woman as a badge of honor. And Amoruso agrees with Trump on one question. Is Clinton a nasty woman?
Yeah, Hillary's a nasty woman in like the best way possible. And I think like Hillary's a nasty woman in that she stands by her beliefs. She keeps showing up. I don't know, she's got like a real hairstyle. Like she tries.
Besides the hashtags, there are already Nasty Woman t-shirts for sale. There's a URL, we can't say it on the air, but it's the PG-13 version of NastyWomenGetThingsDone.com.
And one more bit of nasty news. Spotify tweeted today that streams of the Janet Jackson song Nasty are up by 250%.
You're listening to All Things Considered from NPR News.
Dang it, Janet. We're here for you. Eh? And this is All Things Considered on 91.3 WLRN, South Florida's NPR news station. Caroline Brader-Watts along with Andy Wagner and Tom Hudson. Oh, I'm almost out of breath, Tom, because we're just doing well today.
It's like that marathon I told you about. It's like that. We got to end strong, and we are ending strong. This is huge. We needed to do $23,000 worth of business this hour, $23,000 worth of business next hour in order to end the pledge drive, end it early. And so we can return full morning edition to all the listeners tomorrow morning. And we are getting, making good progress. That's right. $42,000 to go. We've got an hour and 45 minutes essentially to do it. Couple of things now. One, the Galapagos trip, right? A seven-night cruise for 2 to the Galapagos Islands, courtesy of Eco Ventura Hotel, international airfare included. That drawing, it closes down at 7 o'clock tonight. So you got to do your business before 7 o'clock tonight. That's the first thing. Second thing, all the thank you gifts that are available online are still there as well. Our gratitude to you for helping continue to support public media. And then the third thing is that big goal. The big prize here is Pledge Free Friday. If we make those numbers. Have 3 words ever sounded so sweet on a Thursday?
I think
Pledge
that would
Free
be awesome.
Friday.
Yes.
All right. How do we do all that? How do we get that accomplished?
All you have to do, and this is the cool part, you know, we say this 42,000. You're not personally responsible for that. You're just responsible for your part of it, whatever that is. $5 a month, $10 a month. If you can be a Circle of Friends member at $100 a month, that's great. You make that decision. Call us at 866-247-9576 or go to WLRN.org.
Support for NPR comes from NPR member stations and from Cigna, a global health service company dedicated to helping people improve their health, well-being, and sense of security. More information is available at Cigna.com. From Rackspace, a managed cloud company with a commitment to innovation and a team of over 3,000 cloud engineers. Rackspace, your clouds, our expertise. Learn more at rackspace.com/expertise. And from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, helping NPR advance journalistic excellence in the digital age.
It's All Things Considered on 91.3 WLRN. We are live and local, and we're South Florida's only NPR news source. Thank you for joining us.
We're funded by WLRN members and by Dr. Angelo Goose, specializing in complications after prostate cancer treatment, including bladder control problems and erectile dysfunction using the latest technology. Information at 954-362-2720.
Dave Grusin, Arturo Sandoval, New York Voices, Tom Scott, Cyril M.A., Will Downing, the Henry Mancini Institute Orchestra, and more come together for the Jazz Roots season opening night concert on Friday, November 4th at the Arch Center. This star-studded lineup will honor the legendary Jazz Roots and GRP Records co-founder, Larry Rosen. To Larry with Love, a star-studded tribute to Larry Rosen on Friday, November 4th. Tickets at archcenter.org.
And this is All Things Considered on 91.3 WLRN, South Florida's NPR news station. Caroline Brader-Watts back with you with Tom Hudson and Andy Wagner. Now we are at $41,000 left to raise hopefully by 7 p.m. this evening. That's how quickly it happens, folks. We've got a lot of folks calling us at 866-247-9576. Lots of folks going to our website, WLRN.org. We promise it will be a quick and painless process, about 2 minutes of your time. You can get a thank you gift there while you're at it. You'll get your name automatically entered into our drawing, which definitely ends tonight at 7, so don't miss out on that. You've got a little over an hour and a half to get your name in for the 7-night cruise for 2 to the Galapagos Islands, courtesy of Eco Ventura. Don't miss out on that opportunity, and don't miss out on your being able to say, hey, I rode in on that white horse at the waning hours of the drive. I made a difference. I allowed them to be pledge free on Friday. Wouldn't that be exciting?
That's right, and do something for yourself by being pledge free on Friday. Here's what you need to have kind of collected. You have your thoughts a little bit collected. Know the kind of level that you're able to afford here to give. Is it that $5 a month? Maybe it's $10 a month. Maybe you're at the Circle of Friends membership level, $100 a month, $1,200. Maybe it's been a pretty good year for you, a very good year for you, and you can give one of those transformational one-time gifts, a number with a comma in it, for instance. So you've got that in mind. Now, what you need to do is you need to get a credit card ready, a debit card ready, bank account ready, some kind of financial a place where you're going to draw the funds from. You have all that set, and you call the phone number, you go online, and as you said, 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes. That could be, you can have it being done in the same time that you would be waiting at a red light in South Florida. It takes that little time. And here's how you do it. 866-247-9576. We got plenty of operators. The phones are not going to be, you're not going to hear a busy signal, so we got plenty of capacity there. And then you can also go online at WLRN.org. Just click on that red donate button. Look for the donate button on our Facebook page. You go right there, and you've got all the transactional details there. I think probably you're going to spend more time maybe deciding which thank you gift do you want to take versus the amount of time it takes to actually make the donation.
Yeah, and everything's listed at WLRN.org. Boy, we are now at $40,000 and counting. We're almost at $39,000, but we're currently standing at $40,000 left to go to wrap this up successfully. Folks, we could do this in an hour and a half. With the way the calls are coming in, the way the hits on the website are coming in, we could conceivably wrap this all up by 7 p.m. We're also going to be wrapping up the drawing for the Galapagos trip from Eco Ventura at 7 p.m. That's a definite, so you don't want to miss out on that. You don't want to miss out on getting your name entered into that drawing. So do it now. As Tom said, there's plenty of operators answering the phone, tons of bandwidth, the WLRN.org. No worries there at all.
I'm going to think like we're in the fourth quarter. right?
All right, football.
Tomorrow is overtime. We don't want to go to overtime.
No.
We know it's there, but we don't want to do it. We want to end the game in regulation. That means tonight at 7 o'clock. We're going to cross that goal line with your help. All right, how about that metaphor? Okay?
I love it.
All right, it takes money to get to that goal, and that goal in the next 95 minutes is $42,000. What part of that is yours? $375 perhaps? That's the cost of an hour of All Things Considered. Here to buy that hour, here's how you do it. 866-247-9576. Safe and secure online, WLRN.org. Thank you so much for your generosity.
This is 91.3 WLRN with All Things Considered.
We're funded by WLRN members and by Nada's Italy, a boutique travel company providing intimate, small group tours and tailor-made trips escorted by local Italian tour guides for personalized, authentic experiences. More at nadasitaly.com. Cleveland Clinic Florida works with breast cancer patients to create customized treatment plans. Experts join with family and friends to form a support squad, one team rallying against breast cancer. More at clevelandclinicflorida.org/support squad. Same-day appointments.
The time is 26 minutes past 5.
From the WLRN studios at the Miami Herald, I'm Charles Perez. President Barack Obama is in Miami today. He spent the first part of the afternoon at Miami-Dade College's Wolfson campus to talk about the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. The president said that because of Obamacare, the uninsured rate has never been lower than it is today.
It's dropped among women, it's dropped among Latinos and African Americans, every other demographic group. It's worked. Now, that doesn't mean that it's perfect. No law is.
The Affordable Care Act has faced scrutiny from Republican leaders, including Florida Governor Rick Scott. In his speech, President Obama criticized Scott for not expanding Medicaid in the state.
If your governor could put politics aside, don't boo, vote. If your governor would just put politics aside and do what's right, then more than 700,000 Floridians would suddenly have access to coverage.
Expanding Medicaid was part of the initial plan for the Affordable Care Act and would have covered lower-income individuals. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump has said he wants to repeal Obamacare. Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton has said while there is room for improvement, the country shouldn't throw out the benefits of the program. A federal judge has rejected a request from the Florida Democratic Party to change some voting rules in advance of the November 8th general election. Democrats were concerned that some new voters would not have their registration applications processed in time for early voting, which begins next week. This means some citizens may be forced to vote using a provisional ballot, which require greater scrutiny from election officials. Florida Democratic Party attorney Kevin Hamilton was disappointed with the ruling.
Oh.
Vote paper ballot. It's not counted unless the canvassing board approves the ballot.
Ron Labasky represents the Florida State Association of Supervisors of Elections. He says allowing people to cast a normal ballot before the verification process would be a bad idea.
It would create a problem of an individual who was not eligible, not on the voter roll, casting a regular ballot at early voting or a polling place, not being scrutinized and voting illegally.
Judge Walker pushed back the voter registration deadline last week because of Hurricane Matthew, leaving a fairly short time between the end of voter registration and the beginning of early voting, which begins on Monday in some parts of Florida. This morning, the two candidates for mayor of Miami-Dade County faced off in a debate sponsored by the Black-Owned Media Alliance. The forum was aired on Gospel AM 1490 WMBM. The candidates, Raquel Regalado and Carlos Jimenez, were asked if they had any solutions to deal with what they called an affordable housing crisis in Miami.
40% of the people who live in Miami-Dade County pay more than 50% of what they earn for their rent or for their mortgage. And the majority of them look like me in the sense that they are single mothers that are paying a lot more than what they're earning and what they can pay for their housing. Now, we actually have plans in Miami-Dade County for affordable and workforce housing, but unfortunately, the current administration has not made it a priority in Washington.
Jimenez says the answer is not in Washington, but in growing new business right here at home.
Startups and new companies are going to be the key to the future of good-paying jobs here in Miami-Dade County. And we planted that seed, and that seed has already started to take off. We're number 2 in startups in the entire nation. And Emerge Americas is making us a technology hub of the Americas. That is the way to move forward.
Tomorrow morning, we will have the results of a new WLRN Univision 23 poll for Miami-Dade County voters and the race for mayor. This is WLRN Miami Herald News. I'm Charles Perez.
AEG Live presents singer-songwriter Lucinda Williams performing at the Parker Playhouse on February 24th at 8 p.m. Tickets for Lucinda Williams will be available at 10 a.m. on Friday at the Broward Center box office or at Ticketmaster.com.
You can advance your career in the healthcare industry with Florida Atlantic University's 15-month Executive Master of Health Administration program. The all-inclusive full-service program includes Lean Six Sigma Green Belt certification and is offered fully online or on campus every third week to accommodate busy working professionals. The GMAT is waived for qualifying students. You can register today for the November 5th open house and get program information at fau.edu/MHA.
Hands down, our local and national reporters are the best team to take on challenging issues that span the country and the globe. It's truly the best investigative journalism on the air. Quality journalism makes a difference in how we think and in the choices we make in our lives. And you know what? WLRN can only exist and do the excellent, in-depth, unbiased job it does when listeners support. Right? That's what public broadcasting is all about. Public support. Be part of that public that supports us right now with your contribution. 866-247-9576 or WLRN.org. Good afternoon. Caroline Brader-Watts, Tom Hudson, Andy Wagner here with you. Tom, I'm just, it kind of takes your breath away when you see this number. We have this number that we're trying to, we're actually trying to get to zero because that means there is no more fundraising. We're kind of going backwards here. But this number is dropping like crazy. We're now at $36,000. We got a whole bunch of people on the phone. We got a whole bunch of people on the website. We could conceivably do this in the next hour and a half. We could conceivably be pledge-free tomorrow.
I tell you what, we are going to be really close given the pace that we're at, and we still got a ways to get there. We still got about 90 minutes, but boy, we've got to raise $36,000 in the next 90 minutes. Can we do it? Can we do it? Well, we're not relying on any one person for that kind of financial support. Instead, it is a cast of thousands. There's no doubt about it. What does it take to become a member? You're a listener of WLRN. What does it take to become a member? What it takes is some ownership, the ability and the interest in taking financial responsibility for what you hear on the radio. Yes, the news and information, no doubt about it, indispensable, we hope, but also the entertainment and the companionship. We've got Marketplace coming up, reporting on, of course, the economy nationwide and throughout the country. We have On Point, one of those great, wonderful programs that we purchased from our friends in Boston. We've got the Q coming up from CBC later on this evening. And of course, Tracy Fields and Jazz, locally produced, right here in control. Fabulous job. Downtown headquarters, absolutely. All of that is worth what to you? To turn on that radio, to know that we are there for you in times of need, during hurricane preparation, in times of distress in terms of the election and what's going to happen next, and in times of great entertainment and merriment. Here it is, 866-247-9576. That's the phone number. As we chip away at that goal, with your help, we will be Pledge-Free Friday. 3 great words. Here's how to help us get there. WLRN.org. The donate button there, it's red. You hit that, you give some green, and we will be ever so closer to Pledge-Free Friday.
And we're at $34,000 now. That's how quickly it happens, folks. And believe me, the operators who are taking your call are processing all of this as quickly as they can. If you can go to the website at WLRN.org, maybe even easier for you, and you can see all the thank you gifts we have. You'll also get your name entered automatically into our drawing, the grand prize drawing, thanks to our friends at Eco Ventura for making this 7-night cruise to the Galapagos Islands available to you. One lucky person going to get that. Boy, we want to meet that person, shake their hand, and live vicariously through them because they're going to have a great trip. But you can't get your name in until you participate. 866-247-9576 or WLRN.org.
Support for NPR comes from NPR member stations and from Constant Contact, committed to helping small businesses and nonprofits succeed with email marketing, working to help organizations meet their goals through personalized marketing help via phone, seminars, and webinars. More at ConstantContact.com. From Eli Lilly and Company, partnering with global health organizations to combat diseases, including diabetes, cancer, and tuberculosis in under-resourced communities around the world at lilyforbetter.com. And from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
From NPR News, this is All Things Considered. I'm Kelly McEvers in Culver City, California.
And I'm Robert Siegel in Washington. Are the news media against Donald Trump? Donald Trump thinks so.
The press has created a rigged system and poisoned the mind of so many of our voters.
Trump's complaint is not completely unprecedented. Republicans as far back as Richard Nixon have complained about what they saw as liberal media bias. Bernie Sanders supporters complained this year about a pro-establishment media bias. But this time there are differences. The intensity of Trump's hostility toward the news media, the number of unflattering news stories about him, and the number of editorial pages and columnists that oppose him. So, are the news media against Trump? We're going to ask NPR media correspondent David Folkenflik what he thinks. David, are they?
I don't know if they're biased against Trump. I do think that there's some truth to the notion that a lot of journalists are offended by Trump, and offended less on a personal level, but on the idea of if you're involved in journalism because you think there's a civic value in it, if you think that you are bringing citizens, not just consumers, facts and information, then Trump's estrangement from fact and truth and notions of fairness and shame in many instances really, I think, offend people. And that he has not really been looked at as a public figure worthy of scrutiny in this same way previously means they're doing a lot of catch-up, and it feels like it's happening all at once.
Well, for people who are out counting words and measuring column inches and counting minutes of how many stories there are that are negative about Donald Trump or negative about Hillary Clinton, could one say that Hillary Clinton is getting away without the scrutiny that Trump is getting?
Look, as somebody who's covered politics one way or another since 1996, I can tell you that Hillary Clinton has been getting a lot of scrutiny, certainly since 1992 when Bill Clinton was running for office to go his first term as president. She has, from Whitewater and Travelgate and the Paula Jones allegations, Troopergate, all these things, Hillary Clinton has gotten a lot of coverage as First Lady, as a Senator, as Secretary of State, and now as a candidate. Donald Trump really hasn't. He flirted with politics in 2000, thinking about running under the Reform Party ticket, Ross Perot's old party. He came really to prominence as the nation's leading birther, making allegations against the legitimacy of President Obama without any factual foundation whatsoever, and he was kind of allowed to do it because he was this roguish, real estate figure, a billionaire, and also a celebrity. So they've treated him as a curiosity, a source of entertainment, the press, but not really as a figure deserving tough scrutiny in the way that I think other political figures have received. And I think that's why really he didn't get that kind of scrutiny during the Republican primary cycle. I think that voters in the Republican cycle probably would have benefited from a lot of the things that we've learned more about in recent months since the general campaign kicked off.
One difference about this election cycle is the role of social media, and reporters are very often urged by their employers to use social media to promote the news organization. But it's typically a zone of great candor. Our reporters who file straight stories for their main outlet frankly emitting opinionated tweets and posts.
I think you're seeing a lot of body language from campaign reporters who have been out there on the hustings for months covering this and really, not only know how to interpret some of the rhetoric, but have seen some of the vitriol being pointed at the press and others. This is an age of voice, and Donald Trump has ridden that tiger, I think, himself with his own Twitter feed and Facebook and other platforms as well. The thing about Trump, of course, is he says that he's a disruptive candidate, that he's unlike any other candidate that we've had. But he wants to be treated the same as others. He says, why am I treated differently by the press? I don't think you both get to be the chaos candidate, in Jeb Bush's famous terms, and also say that he deserves exactly the same treatment as everyone else.
NPR media correspondent David Folkenflik, thanks.
You bet.
When someone is shot or stabbed, every second counts. The sooner they can get to the hospital, the better their chances they'll survive. But there's a debate in the world of emergency medicine. Should ambulance teams take time to treat victims in the field, or should they provide minimum intervention and rush them to the hospital? Doctors in Philadelphia are trying to solve the dilemma with an ambitious citywide experiment. From WHYY in Philadelphia, Aaron Moselle reports.
On a recent Saturday, a dozen residents flank a fold-out table inside a rec center in North Philly, one of the most violent sections of the city. The group is here for a regularly scheduled community meeting, but there's nothing routine about the study Dr. Zoe Marr is here to outline. Marr is a trauma surgeon at Temple University Hospital, and she's on a mission to save more victims of violent crime.
What I'm hoping to get from you all this morning is questions, if you have them, and thoughts, concerns about what we hope to be actually groundbreaking data to change the way we take care of gunshot and stab victims.
It's actually more than a friendly ask, because, well, everyone in the room could end up in her study. That's because everyone in the city, all 1.5 million people, is a potential enrollee.
So anyone, anytime, myself, my child, my husband included, could potentially...
Marr wants to prove that for patients who are potentially bleeding to death, less care before they reach the hospital is better. The care she wants to see less of? Breathing tubes and IVs.
For patients who are bleeding to death, fluids don't help you, and in fact, they can hurt you.
During the study, gunshot or stabbing victims will be divided into 2 groups depending on what dispatch number they're automatically assigned. Odds will get what's called advanced care, what the majority of patients now get when they're transported by city paramedics. Evens will get only basic care to stop bleeding and help breathing and be immediately transported to the hospital. There are some exceptions if you're under 18, pregnant, or a prisoner. Inside the rec center, the breakdown raised some eyebrows, including Charles Lanyers. He's lived in the neighborhood for years.
And I hear what you're saying, but in the interim, you're still sacrificing people, somebody, in order to prove which is better.
Yanitza Gonzalez, who works for a city councilwoman, nods from across the room.
Because it almost seems like we'll be gambling with people's lives.
Marr has heard this response before, but she's convinced that her study is not a gamble. She says previous research has proven as much, and that her trial is just about confirming those results. Dr. Brent Myers is president-elect of the National Association of EMS Physicians. He says that would be a big deal for medical professionals, especially paramedics.
For the past 30 years in EMS, this has been one of the great questions. How much advanced life support is beneficial for victims of penetrating trauma? I mean, you could probably go to any paramedic in any city across the United States and engage in a debate because we just do not have the appropriate evidence to guide the decision.
It's part of why Myers says he wouldn't expect a lot of grousing from paramedics, even though it will effectively dictate what they do in the field. Dr. Amy McGuire is a medical ethicist at Baylor University in Texas. She says while the study does carry some risk for patients, there's nothing inherently unethical about it.
So the only way to really know whether this is better or not is to do a randomized trial and to compare it against what's currently standard of care.
Where McGuire does see some moral gray area is in the community outreach piece of the trial, because it's impossible for everyone in the city to know about the study before it gets underway.
And they'll be enrolled in the study, and they may not have wanted to have participated as a part of the study.
Residents who learned about it and opt out will get a wristband which they'll have to wear throughout the study, which is expected to last 5 years. But the trial will end early if it's obvious one kind of care is better. For NPR News, I'm Aaron Moselle in Philadelphia.
This story is part of a reporting partnership with NPR, WHYY, and Kaiser Health News.
Caroline Brader-Watts, Tom Hudson, Andy Wagner, just astounded by the groundswell, the support we're getting today. We're just kind of sitting here with
you're sitting down.
I know, with my jaw kind of on the floor, like, wow.
It is overwhelming.
Not that I ever doubted it, because we have such great listeners, we have such great supporters here in South Florida, but we're now down to $27,000. That's all we need to wrap this up successfully and go to Pledge Free Friday. I know that's something that's got to be resonating with most of you. It's certainly with us. So give us a call at 866-247-9576, 866-247-WLRN, or online at WLRN.org. Of course, and we still have an hour and 15 minutes. That's plenty of time.
Yeah, it is plenty of time to get this done.
Of.
We have come a long way in a relatively short period of time. Yes, we know it's a marathon, but my goodness, we seem to be picking up speed as we enter into really the final moments here, potentially the final 85 minutes, 75 minutes here of this pledge drive. A couple of things going on here, Caroline. One is Marketplace, of course, is coming up. We'll be updated on the latest business and investment news. As you hear the programming, the phone lines will remain open. The website and the donate button on the website and the donate button on the Facebook page all remain active. So just because you don't hear us giving the phone number, giving the website, talking about the deadline here and the countdown, it doesn't mean that we're not open for business. We are open for business. It would be too ironic not to take advantage of the great program and the great listenership of Marketplace, not to say, hey, it's your dollars that help keep this kind of contextual, important macroeconomic reporting happening on your radio dial. So that phone number and the website, again, that will remain active throughout the next 75 minutes here in order to chip away at that goal, in order to reach that goal of these three words: Pledge Free Friday. Oh my goodness. 866-247-9576. 866-247-WLRN. That's the phone number. Plenty of capacity there. No busy signals. Takes less than 2 minutes there. Get your credit card, debit card ready, a bank account ready. If you're going to do the monthly plan, those numbers are important for the website to have in order to find you each and every month. Safe and secure online. The red donate button. Hit that. WLRN.org.
And now we're at 26,000. That's just how quickly this happens. But let me thank, I got a whole bunch of people I need to thank here. Stephanie in Parkland, Stephen in Coconut Grove, Julie, and Margaret in Lake Worth just popped up, Julie in Plantation, Colette in Coral Springs, Alberto in West Palm Beach, Juliana in Hollywood, John in South Miami, Nicholas in Key West, Glennis in Pompano Beach. I love when we hear from all the different counties. That is so exciting. That's such a great, I almost can't keep up with all the names and all the updates I'm getting here. I've got a lot of screens open here. I'm going to try to get you an update on our total right now. But once again, that number is 866-247-9576, 866-247-WLRN, or online, WLRN.org.
Two big goals here. Number one, the financial goal that you'll update us on here in a moment. The other goal is Pledge Free Friday. You know, now, as if that is not enough reward on a Friday with cooler weather moving in, gorgeous weather here for South Florida, and Pledge Free Morning Edition. How about that? The second thing is, you do this by 7 o'clock. Not only do they get that Pledge Free Friday for everybody, you get entered into the drawing, the Galapagos Island drawing. This is a two-ticket trip here, 7-night cruise for two to the Galapagos Islands, courtesy of Ecoventura Hotel. International airfare is included. 7 o'clock is the deadline there. You'll get entered into that drawing. That's pretty cool. And then Pledge Free Friday is on the line.
And I got 3 other great words for you. Galapagos drawing ending. So those are the other 3 words you need to remember right now as you're making your phone call or going to the website, 866-247-9576, 866-247-WLRN, or online, WLRN.org. We're closing in on 25,000 left to go.
Here's how close we are, right? We're in the studio. I just made a phone call to say we need to be prepared for a Pledge Free Friday from the news department because schedules change.
Right, we have to make
Clocks
adjustments.
change, those kinds of things. And so we are that close. Things are in the pipeline. Plans are adrift here. Let's bring them in. Let's bring this to a close. 7 o'clock tonight. 866-247-9576. Safe and secure online. Takes a credit card, a debit card, a checking account. WLRN.org. Thank you so much for your generosity.
It's All Things Considered on 91.3 WLRN. We're live and local. We're South Florida's only NPR news source. It's 10 to 6.
AEG Live presents Roger Waters, co-founder of Pink Floyd, bringing his new tour, Us and Them, to Miami on July 13th at American Airlines Arena, featuring classic Pink Floyd as well as new songs and solo work. Tickets on sale Friday at 10 a.m. at Ticketmaster.com. We're funded by WLRN members and by Memorial Cardiac and Vascular Institute. Memorial pioneered heart transplants in Broward County for adults and for children at Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital. Memorial's Total Heart team now cares for every heart at every age and in every stage, even when patients need a new Memorial heart transplant. Learn more at memorialcardiac.com/totalheart.
From NPR News, this is All Things Considered. I'm Kelly McEvers.
And I'm Robert Siegel. A Russian aircraft carrier is headed towards Syria. Western officials fear it could be part of an effort to crush the opposition in the city of Aleppo. For now, Russia has reduced airstrikes to give fighters and others a chance to leave the rebel-held area. It's not the first time Russia has helped the Syrian regime essentially force people out of their cities. The U.S. and the UN have not been able to stop them, as NPR's Michelle Kellerman reports.
Russia's defense minister, Sergei Shoigu, says his country is extending for another day a humanitarian pause so that civilians in need of medical care can get out of the rebel-held part of the city. But Russia clearly wants more. We're appealing to countries that have influence on armed groups in eastern Aleppo to convince them to stop fighting and leave, Shoigu says. The Russian Defense Ministry has posted webcams on the routes they say are open for rebels and civilians to flee. Russia has helped Syria force the surrender of smaller rebel-held towns. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad says he thinks Syrians want to leave Aleppo. But the UN envoy Staffan de Mistura says what people really want is not to leave the city, but to end the Syrian regime's bombing of Aleppo. And he's making clear the UN doesn't want to be part of a strategy that forces people to abandon their homes.
The UN never supports anything that is not a voluntary decision by the local population, or in particularly when they are threatened, like has been the case in eastern Aleppo.
He says there are about 275,000 civilians in rebel-held eastern Aleppo now, many of them children.
My feeling is that, from what I'm hearing, that the people do not want to leave their places.
De Mistura says for now the UN will try to take advantage of the Russian pause to evacuate Syrians in need of medical attention. Russia and Syria have been bombarding hospitals and clinics in recent weeks in Aleppo, and the UN has repeatedly called for medical evacuations. There's also a broader ceasefire plan for Aleppo on the table, the UN envoy says, but that will require al-Qaeda-linked fighters to agree to leave the city and the Syrian government to respect the local administration and let the more moderate fighters stay. Secretary of State John Kerry doesn't have high expectations for this diplomacy, given the Russian and Syrian strategy to date.
Every bomb that's dropped by Russia and the Assad regime is radicalizing more and more people.
UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon says he welcomes Russia's humanitarian pause, but calls it the bare minimum. He says 500 people have been killed in airstrikes in recent weeks, more than a quarter of them children. And the question he says he's often asked is whether the UN has learned anything from the massacres in Srebrenica or Rwanda. Michelle Kellerman, NPR News, Washington.
And good evening to you. Peter J. here with you, along with Tom Hudson, Carolyn Grader-Watts manning the controls. Andy Wagner behind the glass, Suzanne Holterman, our membership director, holding up the sign.
And we have the champagne. Is it on ice?
I think so. I mean, you know, we're having a party here. It's the end of the fall membership drive party. We can't quite break out the champagne yet, though. We've got about $24,000 left to raise. You know what? We're going to do that this afternoon. It's going to happen. When if you can call right now, if you have made a pledge, an additional little addition would be wonderful. If you haven't had a chance yet to partake in this process, you're going to feel great when you do, and there's all kinds of perks about as well. But let me give you the number. Right now, we are counting down as quickly as we can to get us off the air and you back to regular programming. 866-247-9576 is the pledge line. That's 866-247-WLRN, and the website is WLRN.org. So, Peter, you know, as you prepare and do so much work in advance of these pledge drives, you send me emails about the news schedule online because it changes when we're in pledge drive. I was just on the phone with some of our news editors saying we've got to be prepared for a pledge-free Friday. You are smiling hugely through as big as your bow tie is that smile right now. So plans are afoot. I said this just a few moments ago, but you know we've got to shuffle some things around. It is all possible. I have to assure you, as the program director, that the news will be covered tomorrow with a pledge-free Friday. Let's try to assure the listeners, with a little bit of financial help, we will get to a pledge-free Friday. We need about $24,000 or so in the next 65 minutes. We want to finish strong. We want to finish not on time. No. Early. We want to finish early. We can finish by 7 o'clock tonight. Marketplace is coming up. The phone lines will remain open during Marketplace. The website remains active. The donate button on the Facebook page all remains active. Here we go. Let's do it. Let's end strong. WLRN.org. WLRN.org. 866-24-7. WLRN on the telephone.
I was just doing some work at my desk, Tom, and every time I refreshed the screen showing the contributions coming in, there was another one or two